KX News is your local election headquarters, and every county commission in our state voted this spring to conduct the June 9th election entirely by mail because of COVID-19. For weeks, auditors have been busy sending out ballot applications and ballots to voters. Carissa Stinchcomb spoke to voters like you and election officials to find out what the positives of mail-in voting are.
We could be, hitting kind of a record for a June election.
Secretary of State Al Jaeger says more than 155,000 ballots have already been sent out, and more than 32,000 voters like you have already returned their ballot, either by mail or in a drop box like this one. With everything being sent straight to your home, ACLU Advocacy Director Dane DeCray says you're more likely to vote because you don't have to go to the polls.
I understand it's not a huge barrier to go to the polls on election day, but it is a barrier. And if the line is long, and if you have a crying child, there's all these situations that we can avoid by doing that if we're serious about that premise, which is we all should be able to vote, and we should be able to provide it the easiest way possible.
DeCray also says it gives you the opportunity to be more informed before marking your ballot.
It gives you more time to look at your candidates and think it through. I don't know how many times as a pretty astute voter do I look at down ballot races and think, I've never seen either of those persons' names.
Which is something first-time mail-in voter Peter Hugret agrees with.
You have a chance to read it and read it again and make sure you're marking everything right, and away you go. So it's easy, just throw it in the mail.
I spoke to other first-time mail-in voters to find out their thoughts and opinions.
I say be glad that you can vote, first of all. That is one of the best things that we can do in this country is if the wrong one gets in and yet you don't like, well, you have nothing to say if you don't vote.
Because I want to get the Republicans to get in.
Sending in a ballot, for me, is just the idea of remembering to do it in time so that my vote will count.
To make sure your vote counts, your ballot needs to be postmarked no later than June 8th or dropped off at a Dropbox location no later than 4 p.m. on June 9th. Reporting for KX News, I'm Carissa Stinchcomb.
And not everyone agrees with the decision to have an election entirely by mail.
I disagree with mail-in voting. I just feel like there's too much tampering that can be done with it. If you can go to the grocery store and buy food, then you can go and vote.
Ward County Auditor Deborah Smeestad says there are several measures being taken to prevent voter fraud. When you apply to vote, election workers double-check things like your date of birth, driver's license number, address, as well as the signature and date on your application. After the voter fills out their ballot and sends it back, staff double-check the signature on the back of the envelope, making sure it matches the one on the application. And there is an extra layer of protection for your ballot.
We want to make sure that everybody puts their ballot in a secrecy envelope, so when we pull these apart, the ballot is still secure. Nobody can see how anybody voted until they mix them up and then start pulling those ballots from the secrecy sleeves. And that way, their voting remains confidential as well.
And she says the ballots they've already received are stored in a vault.
That's safe. Okay, Lauren, thank you. Stay tuned, still to come.